waiting for the fallout.
To the much-debated Stand Your Ground law. It's in the headlines again, but what does the law say and how is it different from self-defense? The original Stand Your Ground law was enacted by Florida lawmakers in 2005. Similar laws have been adopted by more than 20 other states since then. The law is a version of self-defense, but with a twist. With self-defense, you must escape if you have a safe opportunity to do so. With Stand Your Ground, you can stay and defend yourself. It also expands the castle doctrine, which is essentially meant to protect you from attackers at home. Stand Your Ground extends that protection to virtually anywhere you are allowed to go. We asked our legal contributor, Jamie Floyd, for more insight into that law.
Stand Your Ground in Florida is a motion you bring before you really get to trial. You say to the judge, look, judge, I don't even need to get to trial. I was standing my ground. This was a justifiable homicide. I was justified in killing this person because it was kill or be killed. And if the judge agrees with you, there is no trial.
Two mothers in Florida have experienced Stand Your Ground laws on a very personal level. SYBRINA Fulton, the mother of TRAYVON Martin, and Lucia McBath, the mother of Jordan Davis, have both lost their children to gun violence. The shooters in each case believed they were justified. Now Ms. Fulton and Ms. McBath are appealing to Congress, seeking changes to Stand Your Ground laws. Natasha Ganem has more.
Two mothers used their grief to make impassioned pleas against Florida's Stand Your Ground law and similar statutes across the country. The law allows a person to use deadly force if he believes his life is in danger.
Because an angry man who owned a gun kept it close at hand and chose to demonstrate unbridled hatred one balmy evening for reasons I will never understand. These laws empowered his prejudiced beliefs and subsequent rage over my son's own life, his liberty and pursuit of happiness.
Lucia McBath's 17-year-old son, Jordan Davis, was shot and killed in Florida last year. The man charged with killing him is citing the law in his defense. Davis died 9 months after unarmed teen TRAYVON Martin was shot and killed. The case was the first to put the spotlight on the state's Stand Your Ground law.
The person that shot and killed my son is walking the streets today, and this law does not work. We need to seriously take a look at this law.
And that's what the Senate Judiciary Committee did. It heard from both sides.
These laws aren't a license to be a vigilante or behave recklessly. They just protect law-abiding citizens from having to leave a place where they're allowed to be.
John Lott with the Crime Prevention Center railed against the notion that a racial disparity has emerged since Florida expanded its self-defense law in 2005 and other states followed.
Blacks made up about 16% of the population, but they account for 31% of the state's defendants invoking Stand Your Ground laws. Black defendants who invoke the statute to justify their actions are actually acquitted almost 8 percentage points more often than whites.
The Association of Prosecuting Attorneys is recommending changes to the law because it says they negatively impact public safety and stymie prosecutors. McBath hopes the changes come before another family loses a child.
Now I face the very real possibility that my son's killer will walk free, hiding behind a statute that lets people claim a threat where there was none.
McBath says this hearing is just the beginning of her fight to convince lawmakers to repeal or amend the Stand Your Ground laws nationwide. Natasha Ganem, Al Jazeera, Miami.
And I spoke with Lucia McBath, the mother of Jordan Davis, and I asked her about the message she's trying to send to Congress. The mother of Jordan Davis joins us now from Washington. Ms. McBath, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
What did you want to tell Congress today? What was important about your son's case that you think Congress needs to know?
I want Congress to understand that the gun culture in this country, the direction that we're going with just the rampant gun violence, is a means of self-destruct for our own country, and that our citizens are not going to stand by and let it continue to happen.
Do you have hope that there is actually something that's going to happen in Congress that might make a difference?
I believe over time, yes. It will not happen overnight. I know that this will be a long, drawn-out process. Anytime you have a change in culture, when we're trying to change culture in our nation, it's a long, drawn-out process, and it won't happen overnight. So we're ready. I'm working with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America and other advocacy groups as mayors against illegal guns. We're prepared for the long haul.
What do you think happened that night?
I think that Michael Dunn was just in a very deep, dark place and maybe very, very agitated by something. And of course, we don't know what that something is. And I think that the gun that he had empowered him to use his anger in a way that was just so detrimental to my son and to the boys that were involved.
In your son's case, a young black man is shot to death by a white man. Is this about race or stand your ground?
Well, definitely race plays an element in it, but it is more about stand your ground, because the stand your ground laws affect adversely everyone in this country. The gun culture, the gun violence has gone beyond any boundary of race, ethnicity, religious upbringing, socioeconomic standing. It's gone beyond any of those boundaries.
So do you believe that this law is being used for people who kill someone else and then hide behind stand your ground?
Absolutely. I believe this law empowers people to do that for whatever reasons they believe that they need to protect themselves and whomever they believe they need to protect themselves from. I believe this law empowers them to do that because they believe, well, I have a right. All I have to do is claim stand your ground and that I believe that I was threatened, and the victim is dead. So the victim cannot speak for his or herself. The victim cannot actually give their truth.
It's difficult when anyone loses their child, but of course this child was special in so many ways and so difficult for you to have him, right?
Very difficult. He was a high pregnancy risk for me. I'd lost a couple of children beforehand, and so with Jordan it was a 50-50 chance whether or not I would still be able to carry him to full term. So I sat in a bed in a wheelchair for 9 months.
The anniversary of your son's death is a matter of days away. How will you observe that day?
Well, there are 2 memorial services for Jordan. One smaller service in Marietta, Georgia, where he was raised in Georgia. We will have a small ceremony for him at the cemetery where he's buried. And then the next day, on the 23rd, which is actually the day that Jordan was murdered, in Jacksonville, Florida, there's a candlelight vigil for him there.
Ms. McBath, we're so sorry for your loss. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For the first time ever, members of Congress have heard testimony from